Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Quintessential Facts, where we cut through the historical and political BS so you don't have to. I am history teacher, father, special needs advocate, and your host, Mr. Quinn, and we are going to cue the truth. Now, what we've been talking about is birthright citizenship as granted by the 14th Amendment. And so what I want to do is give you the most common arguments that the current administration is trying to use to dismantle the 14th Amendment. And we want to break them down so that you have the proper ammo, so to speak, to push back against these arguments when you can. One of the things you will see the administration state is that the 14th Amendment, because it was a Civil War era amendment, it should only apply, or it did only apply, to recently freed African Americans. And we know this is not only ahistorical, it's legally hollow. If you look at that clause of the 14th Amendment, it specifically states all persons born or naturalized in the United States. Now, the legislators of the 1860s, if they wanted to be specific, they would have written all freedmen or all people of African descent. And they didn't. In many earlier, talk about the slave codes, many earlier legislations, they used specific language to indicate they were talking about African Americans. Here they did not. And they did that because they wanted a broad universal language, all persons, to prevent this very kind of narrowing of rights that we see the Trump administration trying to attempt. And don't take my word for it. Senator Howard of Vermont, who added that clause, all persons, back in the 1860s, stated, quote, every person born in the United States, without regard to color or race of their parents, is a citizen. It's pretty clear cut. Another argument you may see in sort of the same vein is that there's this phrase in the 14th Amendment, under the jurisdiction thereof. And the argument goes that people who are here from foreign countries aren't really under the jurisdiction of the U.S. because presumably they owe allegiance to whoever the leader of their home country is. And again, that's simply not true. Regardless of where you're from, if you are in the U.S., you are still subject to our laws. If you come here from another country and murder someone, you will still get in legal trouble. And so there's not really any ambiguity there. It simply means as long as you're here and you don't have diplomatic immunity, which is a very narrow circumstance, you are subject to our jurisdiction. And the third kind of bad faith argument you may see is a resident requirement. The 14th Amendment states that you are a resident of the U.S. and the state in which you reside. And so current administration officials will argue that oftentimes new immigrants don't have a fixed address, or they are too difficult to track down, or in some cases they are homeless, and so that precludes birthright citizenship, which is absolutely not true. The Constitution has no mention of parental residence, nothing about social class, wealth, or housing. Residence is simply where you live. Domicile is just a legal term. They'll try to confuse it and say, what about domicile? Domicile is just a legal term regarding where you intend to reside permanently. Neither matter, because again, in the end, the 14th Amendment is pretty clear cut. But again, don't take my word for it. Take history's word. This is a quote from Horace Gray, the Supreme Court Justice who presided over the Wong Kim Ark case in 1898. And he said, the 14th Amendment, quote, affirms the ancient and fundamental rule of citizenship by birth within a territory, in allegiance and under the protection of that country, including all children here born of resident aliens. Thank you, everybody. Stay tuned for more.